Oh yeah, we're doing this again. We're doing this again. We're reading the comments, finding out what people really need, and we make a follow-up video. Guys, we listened to your feedback regarding a recent investigation video where I compared air versus liquid coolers on Threadripper, and I'm back at it to show you guys some results after testing out the Enermax Liqtech 240. And yes, I just said Liqtech, so I'm looking forward to the comments. It's a really odd name from Enermax. I'm not really sure why they named their coolers that way, but anyways, moving on. Now, if you don't recall that video, here's a quick rundown. I tested 4 coolers, 2 of them being AIOs from NZXT, specifically the Kraken X52 and X62, and the other 2 were air coolers from Noctua, the NH-U12S TR4 and the NH-U14S TR4. Do note that these coolers came with their own custom contact surface area that pretty much covered the entire die of the CPU, and that was a contributing factor for the lower temperatures we saw when compared to NZXT's offerings. The Liqtech 240 TR4 from Enermax looks like a pretty good cooling solution for Threadripper since the copper cold plate covers 100% of the IHS, so let's find out how well it compares to the rest of the coolers right after a message from our sponsor.
Check out the outstanding K7XX open-style headphones by Massdrop and AKG with beautiful design, lightweight, and perfectly comfortable with incredible sound signature and a well-rounded price too. Join the drop, linked below.
Alright, so the Liqtech 240 TR4 retails for about $130, and as the name implies, this is a 240mm all-in-one liquid cooling solution. Now, if you're looking for something a bit bigger, they do offer a 360mm variant for an extra $20, and interestingly enough, I did notice a 280mm variant on their website, but oddly, I wasn't able to find availability and pricing on that particular model, so perhaps we could expect that in the near future. The radiator is 39mm thick, and here's a quick comparison shot to the X62 without any fans installed. It's a bit on the thicker side, so that could cause mounting issues inside a standard case, because if you add the fans on top of the rad, that could impede motherboard installation when placed in a top mount position. Luckily, I had no issues installing this AIO inside the Air 540 from Corsair, but I would still highly recommend checking case compatibility if you decide to get this cooler. The 2 included 120mm fans are built really well, and they feature anti-vibration rubber pads to help with acoustics. The premium polyamide rubber tubing made installation a breeze, and it's really flexible, plus you don't have to worry about accidental leaks, which are mostly common within AIOs that come with PVC tubing. Now, what's really interesting about this particular cooler is its custom designed water block / reservoir combination unit. It claims to deliver a high flow rate up to 450 liters per hour for superior cooling performance, and all of that is backed by the copper cold plate that covers 100% of the IHS on Threadripper processors. The patented shunt channel technology enables the cold plate to eliminate the boundary layer to increase coolant flow momentum and accelerate heat transfer performance. I guess we'll find out how well that plays out in the results. Alright, let's talk installation for this AIO. If you recall my recent BTS episode, I mentioned how I had a tough time placing the pump on top of the CPU due to incompatibility issues within the bracket and the standoffs. Well, it turns out that the bracket can be removed completely from the pump and it can be readjusted to fit the socket. So shout out to David for pointing that out in the comments because I totally missed that, and oddly enough, Enermax doesn't have any of that info in the manual or the website. So I do want to take this time to apologize for misinforming you guys regarding incompatibility issues because that's really not the case here. It's just I completely missed that part. So if you do end up picking one of these coolers, make sure to slide the bracket all the way into the pump for it to fit the standoffs. Now with that out of the way, the rest of the installation was pretty much similar to traditional liquid coolers. I used the included spring screws to tighten the 4 corners, I mounted the radiator, plugged in pump power connector to the motherboard, which by the way doesn't require a separate SATA power source, so that's nice. The included PWM fan splitter can be used to connect the dual 120mm fans directly to the motherboard using a single pin, and the fan speed can be controlled through the utility software that's provided by your respective motherboard manufacturer. So without any further ado, let's jump into the results. I used AIDA64 stress test on the 1950X and HW monitor to monitor the CPU temperatures. Let's kick things off at stock settings since it gives us a rough baseline as to how each cooler stack up with one another. As you can see, the Enermax cooler surprised me with the idle temperatures around 30 degrees Celsius, and it's the lowest among the other coolers. Under load, the Liqtech 240 ran almost neck to neck with the U12S from Noctua and the NZXT X62, but mind you, that cooler features a 280mm radiator. So the custom designed copper cold plate seems to do a pretty good job keeping temperatures under control, given that it's paired up with a 240mm radiator. But what happens when we overclock the CPU? Well, that 240mm radiator can only do so much, dissipating the enormous heat output produced by the overclocked 1950X CPU, but it was under control at 4 GHz, yielding temperatures around 74°C, which is just 5 degrees warmer than the Kraken X62. It's obviously a lot superior to the X52, so if you're looking for a 240mm all-in-one liquid cooling solution for X399, the Liqtech 240 is the one to get. Let's move on to some acoustic tests for this cooler. Do note that the fan noise was recorded just a few inches away from the case, so the tests might sound a lot noisier than they really should. So I hope those results answered some of your questions regarding how the Enermax cooler performed with respect to NZXT's offerings and Noctua's air coolers. Let me know what you guys think about the Enermax Liqtech 240. Is it something that you would look into if you consider switching to Threadripper? Now be mindful that this is a 240mm radiator, and it obviously outperforms the X52 from NZXT, but certainly not the X62 from NZXT. So if you're looking for an aesthetic AIO, you should probably stick with the X62 because it's got the RGB lighting and it's got a really clean looking CPU block. But if you are looking for a compact AIO cooler, say like in the 240mm radiator range, pick the Enermax Liqtech 240. It seems to do a pretty good job at cooling the Threadripper CPU at stock and overclock settings. So what do you guys think of the Enermax Liqtech 240? And I know Liqtech sounds a little weird, but regardless of that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this AIO cooler and of course its performance when compared to the other coolers that I mentioned. Leave a comment down below. I'm Ibor with HardwareCanucks. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more similar content, and we'll see you in the next one.